You might have probably heard that Judith Polgar defeated Magnus Carlsen with 19 moves. Oh, it was huge and everywhere on the web. Today, we want to elaborate on the games of Magnus Carlsen and the best female player, Judith Polgar. So meet the brightest minds fighting for the beauty of this unpredictable and breathtaking game. Ready? Magnus emerged as the victorious champion in the 2014 World Blitz Championship held in Dubai, boasting an impressive score of 17 out of 21. Meanwhile, despite finishing with a commendable score of 13 out of 21, Judith Polgar, a genuine chess goddess, still secured a place among the top 32 out of 113 participants. Moreover, she obtained the Grand Master title, yes, the one that belonged to Bobby Fischer when she was 15. A bit of context, the game you are about to see has its limits, as players were allocated a mere 3 minutes for their moves. Such pressure! This session is different from the classical chess format. There's no time to chill. There is pure attentiveness and readiness. Besides, players met on opposite sides of the board in the intense competition's 14th round. No tiredness and distraction, no right for a mistake. So Magnus got white and Judith had black pieces. The fight will be tight. Magnus moves the pawn to d4, a standard opening move. Judith puts her knight to f6. We get the king's Indian defense. Magnus wants to use the space and develop pieces, so he launches his C&E pawns into the center. We see Judith prefers getting her bishop on g7 and castling her king. Safety is a great idea, but will it help her? The opening is over. Players position their pieces and evaluate their options. Then, get ready, the play will be very dynamic. Magnus develops his minor pieces and Judith moves her pawns. It becomes clear that there is a strange case, and Judith's queenside minor pieces are underdeveloped. Magnus keeps playing knight g3, trying to get a more active square and more power. Judith needs to think. Then she pushes her knight to a6. What does she want to do? This move does not align with all chess principles. Magnus quickly moves his bishop to e2, looking to castle. After Judith plays queen to c7, he succeeds with it. However, it is hard to determine who is leading the game now. Also, Magnus has a slightly advantageous position. Judith needs the d file to be open, so she strikes in the center with e5. Magnus, in his turn, promptly locks the center. Then Judith wants to make him regret it. She threads the kingside pieces with the move h5. The move does not seem dangerous, but wait for the moment you see it causes a lot of trouble to Magnus. Queen d2 creates a battery for Magnus, and after Judith kicks his knight out and hops in with her own, we start to see why Judith is no pushover. f5 again. She starts the attack with her pawns. Judith strikes in the center and wants to trade her pieces with Magnus's king's side. Magnus would like to save the most possible for now. A few more developing moves and Magnus takes away his knight from f2 to d3, creating an escape route for his bishop. Judith locks up her pawn chain and Magnus slides his bishop back before Judith plays knight g3, a knight sacrifice. If you need time to wear the player's shoes, pause the video to learn the chessboard. We explain for the rest. If white takes their knight, black will recapture and win the bishop anyway. But then Magnus's white king will be vulnerable. It is not the issue he wants to trap in, so Magnus slides his rook out of danger. Judith blocks off white's dark square bishop. Nobody loves having pieces and being unable to use them. Thus, Magnus decides to take the risk. He trades off the knight for the bishop. Magnus has to be careful here, as his queen cannot get off the back rank. Seeing this, Magnus plays his queen to g5 for Judith's pawn. There's no way Judith can defend the pawn, so she keeps moving and slides her queen to a more active square. Magnus does not take it. He creates another thread with his knight. Yes, he forces black's queen to move and then picks up the pawn on g3. What will Judith do? She moves her bishop onto a more active square. Magnus responds by sliding his king up, looking to transfer a rook into her open h-file. Black moves her terrible knight to a better square and moves the rook over to attack the bishop. A mistake may cost too much. Judith thinks and moves her king up to g7, so she does not retreat to her highly active bishop. Magnus offers a queen trade. Judith does not hesitate and accepts the offers almost immediately. We're shocked. It is not easy to decide to get rid of the queen in an ordinary game, not talking about the highest level of competition. What do they feel now? It must be a dangerous game against Magnus, who is regarded as the best endgame player. We'll see. It seems that Judith got a second breath after trading queens. She sees a bishop sacrifice. Magnus takes it, and she forks the rook and king, winning material. Is anything missing? Yes, for now. Judith hadn't anticipated that Magnus already knew this was coming. He pretended willingly to accept the sacrifice. He also knew her knight was trapped and useless in its current position. A few more consequent moves and Judith is now in deep trouble. She has less material and a worse position than Magnus. Will it be a miracle? Rook a6 hangs onto her d6 pawn, but Magnus doesn't even care as that knight's on a1. He's picking up his win like it's an arcade game. Out of desperation, Judith takes off Magnus's knight on b5, but this digs her grave even more profoundly. Now it becomes clear that Magnus is up 2 points of the material in an ultimately winning endgame. His task now is to defend his pawn and trade off pieces. Judith tries to create an attack on Magnus's g2 pawn, but Magnus has it covered. She then makes a last-ditch attempt to capture White's isolated pawn on b6, but Magnus calmly plays knight b2. He prepares the trap. Judith cannot take his pawn and takes the bait. This game is over. Magnus realized that the rook's only safe square is b4, so if he can prevent black from accessing this, the next move he traps the rook after knight c4, and that is precisely what he did. Judith Polgar resigns from the game. It was so wonderful. The game is full of unpredictable ups and downs. If you're passionate about chess and want to dive deeper into competitive play, subscribe to our YouTube channel today. Join us for insightful analysis, exciting game highlights, and expert commentary to sharpen your chess skills and stay up to date with the latest in the chess world.